If we like your comment, we'll notify you, and then you get free access to Maps Aesthetic. By the way, you also have to subscribe to this channel and turn on your notifications. One more thing, we're running a 50% off sale promotion on 2 very popular programs, Maps Strong and Maps Powerlift, both half off. Go check them out or go sign up at mapsfitnessproducts.com. Just use the code AugustSpecial with no space for the discount. All right, enjoy the show. So, Carol, thanks for coming on. I'd like for you to give our audience a little bit of background to yourself, and then I'd like you to go into why you studied and wrote a book on testosterone, of all things.
Great. Okay. First of all, thank you so much for having me. It's a thrill to be here and meet all of you. As far as background, how far back do you want me to go? I can talk about not being the ideal student in high school. Maybe some of your listeners could relate to that.
Yeah, sure.
Sort of, so I like to talk about where I came from because I think it's important for people to know that just because you weren't a stellar student early on, that doesn't mean that you can't change direction and kind of try to sort things out and get to where you're meant to be or where you have to work hard to go. But you can work hard and focus and change things. And so in high school, I was pretty crazy. I was definitely pretty crazy. So all my great high school friends who are helping me now on Facebook and stuff and supporting the book know exactly where I came from. And that is somebody who skipped so many classes that I didn't have a diploma in my folder when I graduated. And so I was not a star student like almost all of my Harvard students. So it feels weird to be there teaching them when I came from such a different place. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I did get into a great college, but it was a different college, Antioch College, which I loved. And then that's when I started to become curious about the ways that biology shapes our behavior. And so that just kind of planted the seed. And then it took 10 years for me just having a job in software and kind of trying to get my shit together and, just have an apartment, have a job, just have a life. And I did a lot of traveling and reading. And that's how long it took me to figure out that I really wanted to go to graduate school and study the evolutionary basis of human behavior. And I didn't really have a super strong focus at that point. So I read a couple books. One is The Selfish Gene by Richard Dawkins about how genes and evolution motivate behavior. And then I read another one by somebody named Richard Wrangham, which was about focused on trying to understand human aggression using an evolutionary perspective. And he had a field site in Uganda where he studied wild chimpanzees. So I read that book, quit my job, and applied to Harvard to grad school because I wanted to work with him. And I got rejected because I had no relevant experience. And but I had already quit my job. So I was like, you know what? This is what I'm doing. I'm not giving up. And so after I got rejected, I went up to meet with him and a few other people in the department, which at the time was biological anthropology. And they said, you have to get experience. And so I was like, all right, give me some experience. This is what I'm doing. How do I do, what can I do? So I just kept kind of pushing, and I just really didn't give up on that goal. And ultimately, Richard offered me a job getting some research experience and running the field site, the chimpanzee research field site in Uganda for a year. So that was thrilling. My friends and family were very nervous about it because this was a very tumultuous time in the region of Africa that I was in. There was a couple civil wars going on. There were a lot of people being attacked with machetes, and there was also like a huge number of rapes and murders. And so it was a little bit tricky, but I went out there and got to watch chimps and, learn about chimpanzee behavior and how to research it. And so that was what really got me interested in testosterone, because if you are anybody who's spent time with chimpanzees in the wild, notices right off the bat that there are massive sex differences that in a lot of ways parallel what we see in humans. So, you've probably seen videos, or maybe you've seen in person, adult male chimpanzees sort of going on what look like rampages, and like doing these threatening displays and beating up some females and definitely competing for status and beating up other males potentially. So there's a huge obsession with status. There's a lot more physical aggression than you would see in the females, who really, on average, are just put on average before everything I say, are, much more peaceful, although they are capable of also being very physically aggressive. But I didn't see any really extreme female aggression at all, just some very, very low levels. But the males regularly, the adult males, every day are doing something physically aggressive, getting into physical fights, running around screaming and dragging big branches and, even beating their chests and trying to threaten other males. They can also be really, loving and nurturing and friendly too. But it's just the differences in the male and female behavior were so striking, and the females are with their families and they tend to be very nurturing. So given there's no culture, human culture that is, among wild animals, the obvious explanation for the parallels between their sex differences and our sex differences is biology, is genes, and ultimately testosterone. So that's the most potent biological factor that can explain why the sexes behave so differently, especially when there's no human culture saying, okay, men...
You have to be this way. Or...
Exactly. Yeah.
Were there
assumptions?
Were there assumptions that you went into when you started to watch these chimpanzees, or did you go in completely open-minded? And if so, what was the craziest things that you noticed about them?
Yeah, no, I was pretty, I read a bunch of books, but I really didn't know a lot about sex differences or testosterone even. I wasn't really sure what it was, or it's sort of embarrassing to say now, or what it did. So I really had no preconceived notions. I just wanted to understand human behavior and where it came from, and how we evolved and how our own biology shapes our behavior.
Now, is it safe? Would you say this is safe to say that the differences in sexes in chimpanzees, although there are parallels between chimpanzees and humans, they're much more pronounced or extreme?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, and thank you for saying that, because that's really, really important. They're definitely much more pronounced. Human males are nowhere near as violent as male chimpanzees. Like we can... one example that people sometimes use is, I just took a plane from Boston and there were a bunch of strange adult human males together on the plane, not beating the crap out of each other. Like that would never happen in chimps. If you meet a chimp from a different community and you're an adult male, there's going to be a fight. That's just not tolerated. There's high levels of physical aggression in the way we don't see it humans. And one thing we have to keep in mind is that humans are weird mammals, obviously because of our culture, but also because you guys, I don't know if any of you have kids.
Oh, we're all fathers.
Okay, so that's great. So that you can feel yourself capable of extreme aggression, particularly if someone messes with your mate or your child.
Absolutely.
But on the flip side of that is you're capable of probably, I'm going to start crying.
Yeah, that's all right.
A level of, because it's so beautiful to see. It was beautiful to see in my husband. A level of nurturing that you never expected. And what's amazing is that kicks in when you're exposed to the stimulus or the stimuli that are your offspring. That kicks in just like it does in male birds.
Now, do you think that's naturally, or do you think that's kind of been nurtured into us over?
Totally natural.
Okay.
It's totally. I think that is natural. I don't see the evidence that anyone's telling you to be aggressive or to be. Certainly there are social pressures, but you feel that from so deep down in you, and it's coming out because you have a child, and you're going to increase your reproductive success if you're nurturing and bonded and protected and protecting your offspring and your partner, you know, and no other man can come near your partner. So you probably, sexually, obviously. So sorry to even plant that seed in your head right now. But so you probably feel at the same time, physically protective, but also incredibly nurturing and responsible for the safety and well-being.
Yeah,
of
would
their
this
kid.
also be
So chimps don't have that. So I just wanted to complete that circle, is that chimps don't have that. Most mammals, 95% of mammals, the males have nothing to do with their kids. It's all about status and sex, basically, finding mates.
I was just going to
say. So that amps up the male-male competition.
I was just going to say, because and this is, I love this. This is a topic I'm so into. Obviously, nowhere near your expertise at all. It's not my
I'm sure.
profession.
I think you probably are.
But I do
You're
love
the
this.
dad.
I read a lot about this, and human males are remarkably paternal in comparison to all other mammals or males, where the males often will kill their young if they don't look like them or are extremely aggressive. Like, we're pretty damn good as as a parent in comparison to others. But there is a difference, right? There is still a general difference between men and women in that. So this study of chimpanzees really sparked your interest in, of all things, or of all drivers, testosterone. Now, why was it testosterone? Why not estrogen or other drivers?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, it's because I loved being with the females, partly because it was just so beautiful to sort of the peacefulness and the nurturing, and it's quiet. You can just hear the birds and the insects, and she'd just be there, and the little they're so cute. The little chimp babies and juveniles are just adorable, and you can just sit there in the jungle and watch them play and twist around on the branches and cuddle with their moms, and that's wonderful. However, when you're with the males,